Check 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, yeah, looks good.
We're recording.
We're recording. Normally we could each next time we'll each wear one of those, but that one's dead. But
Okay.
we have two of those, so each next time I can wear one, you can wear one. I only have one lapel wire,
Okay, got it.
which we can get another one of those. But
Sounds good. Here we are. Part 2.
part 2. I don't even remember what part 1 was about.
Road rage. Cars.
Road rage. It was. That's how we got started. I know we had talked about when we were texting the other day. We talked about parenting
Right.
and just the general. What did we experience as kids with our parents? How do we experience ourselves now as parents with our kids? What does it even mean to be a parent? Are we? My wife and I joke all the time that like we have two funds going, a college fund and a counseling fund, because like I know there's some things happening that like we're gonna have to deal with later, right? It's like, but I think like I think as I've gotten older, that's been a part of human nature that I feel like I've had to come to grips with accepting that there are lots of things my parents did
Right.
that I look at that I'm like, how could you? Right? It's a lot easier on this side to be like, how could you do that?
Oh yeah.
How could you even, And simultaneously, like, one, recognize that no matter what it is, I shouldn't say no matter. For the most part, I believe the majority of the things that we experience in life from our parents, that as adults we look back on and say, how could they do that? It's that they were doing the very best with what they had and what they knew and what they had experienced
Right.
with us.
Mm.
Just like we are now. We just think that we have like a hindsight that's, 2010, if you will. It's better than 2020. That we're like, well, we saw it better, so now we know better. When
Yeah. I think it's really hard to sometimes justify when you think about certain things that happened to you as a child. I was looking at a picture of me at 5 years old. I'm sitting there with my older sister, and Jones is gonna be 5 next month or this month, and it was just so sad thinking about Eve at 5, how Eve was treated, how unkind his surrounding was to Eve, and I'm thinking parallels with Jones, and I know his vulnerability. I know how scared he get when he's left alone, or you're just so aware of the need of your child, and and so I think it's part of the reasons why I'm learning to give myself more grace, because I was never taught how to to be kind to myself. Anything I did that didn't work was my fault. I remember, for example, I was about Jones's age. In Africa, there's this toys. It's made out of wire. It's very intricate, and once it breaks down, you have to have somebody who knows how to do it to fix it. So I remember playing with one. It broke down, and I didn't know how to fix it. And I was just frustrated, and I was crying. And all I needed is my mom to come and help me fix it. But God knows what she was going through. I just know she came at me like a tidal wave. She took the toy, yanked it, and tossed it, and beat the crap out of me because I was just so inconvenient too. I love my mom, but I think about those moments, and I find myself in the same situation with Jones, and I'm coming in like a tidal wave, and I stop myself because it hit me right there. It's like, I've lived this before. So for me, that's a win, just being in a space where God, I'm a monster. I'm capable of so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I am entrusted with the most vulnerable little guy
Mm-hmm.
who's the most sensitive kid I know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I worry. It's like, Jones, are we gonna be able to make it
Yeah.
in the real world? You know?
Yeah, I think we'll kind of work that in reverse. Yeah, I think oftentimes we tend, especially as fathers, I think we tend to look at our children and we expect for them to be able to build the tools needed for us to survive today.
Oh yeah.
And like Jones, or whether it's my son or my daughter, like they're all relatively the same age.
Yeah.
Like I think oftentimes I want to be frustrated, or I get frustrated because I don't think they are resourced and they can't today take on the pressures that I feel today. But I don't expect them to feel what I'm feeling today.
Right.
So what are the tools then that we as fathers can give our children that equip them to be able to learn how to build the kind of tools they will need to survive what they will need to survive when
Right.
they are our age? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
I think that's one of the biggest thing for me has been patient in teaching them the tools that they need. Patience comes with energy and being present and being in the moment. My wife is really good about, I admire her, and she's really good about being present with them. Even when she's had a hell of a day, she's there, you know. And one of the things I've realized is that I need to get my health together if I'm going to be there for him, because I want to be there. I want to be present. And most of the time, I'm too tired. I don't have enough sleep. There's all these excuses that, well, reality of life that we choose as excuses not to do the jobs that we know we are to do.
I think you make a really good point, though, in the way that you described what both feels like an excuse, but is also the reality of life.
Right.
But at times we use the reality of life as an excuse to not pursue the things that we want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
we choose to hold them as our own prison.
Yeah, I don't have time to do that. Fill in the gap of whatever that
Right.
is. Well, but we have time for all the other that's that we're doing. And so what is it in us that that forces us, or that we learn, or I don't know the right word. What is it that in us that takes certain things and we go, well, that's a must. That's typically not a must.
Right.
And to take the things that we really want to be musts, they're not yet, but they're desires, their hopes, their passions, and what we don't choose those things. And again, and is it that we're afraid that we're going to fail? Is that we don't know how? Is it that the other thing is easier, right? It's like the task of writing something on a to-do list just to mark it off. Well, I think there's some things in life that we choose to do that we say we must do, but really it's that we feel like if we do them, we'll get an easy win.
Right. Yeah.
And we would rather, at times, I wonder how often at times in my life am I choosing to take the easy win instead of pursuing the thing that I deeply desire.
I feel like that's a constant, it's like that beeping sound,
Like the fire alarm that needs a battery
Yeah.
change.
all the time.
Yeah.
And you keep ignoring it.
Yeah.
And you know you should, and you don't. And it's just set you up for failure in every area, including your mood. Because I'm starting to find triggers in my life where I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling really out of place, because something happened that reminded me of all the things that I need to be doing and I'm ought to do and I'm not doing. And I get overwhelmed by feeling like the bus has already left and I'm left behind. And now it's my fault because I should have when I had to. But not realizing that I can still get on another bus to get me there.
Yep.
Even if it's a couple minutes after that.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I'm starting to realize where I stopped giving myself excuses of not becoming everything that I know I ought to be.
Yeah.
because of everything that has happened to me. And there's a real realities of things that I'm still trying to catch up financially, for example, and giving my background and not, you name it, every thing that can happen to anybody. Not to say that I'm a Superman and I don't have feelings, but at the same time of, man, we are such malleable creatures that at any moment, at any given time, we can change and pivot like 180 the other way around. And I'm becoming more aware of myself in that sense, and choosing every time when somebody says or does something that triggers me, if I should react or respond, especially with my son, and I'm paying real close attention because he's picking up everything. And I find myself saying things or doing things or acting certain ways. I'm like, God, he caught me doing that.
Yeah, it's really interesting when we allow ourselves to watch our children's reactions to our presence, how much of a reflection it is of us.
Gosh, I'm an asshole. I'm a jerk.
But I think,
and he's kind.
but here's the deal though. But I think, and I'm not saying that you are not sometimes an asshole, and I'm not saying that sometimes you're not a jerk. Okay, I'll give you that because I am too, right? But what an incredible gift we've been given as fathers to have children who can reflect back to us even the things in us that we despise seeing,
right,
and yet still long and yearn to want to be with us. And that piece, I think about being a dad, that piece about being a father, that 2 a.m., someone wakes me up, their tummy hurts, they're upset, they had a bad dream, they need some water. So I mean, pick one of the reasons they get us up. Although I know that I'm not perfect at it, I try to remind myself at 2 a.m. when someone gets up because they have a sore throat or they need water or they had a bad dream, that the only person that they wanted to come to was me.
Ooh, yeah.
Like they chose me. As a father, at 2 a.m., my kid wanted me. When it was scary, they wanted me. When they felt bad, they wanted me. When they wanted comfort, they wanted me. When they were upset, they wanted me. I was the one they chose. And then let's just kick it into high gear. And I was around and available for them to choose. And so, albeit my attitude and our attitude may not always be best, how many times in a row can we allow ourselves to say yes? I got you.
Yeah.
I'll get up. What do you need? How can I help? Let me change the sheets. Let me get you a bowl. Let's go to the bathroom. Let's whatever those things are. Because I can sleep some more. Right? I can push that meeting. I can.
Yeah. Nothing is set in stone, so to speak.
No.
That can moved around. You're right. And I think that's kind of I think that's where I'm starting to catch on with, like especially the middle of the night. Gosh, I'm not a good person to be around that time of the day, but and I'm proud of myself when I've gotten up and we did it, and gosh, you wake up and feeling like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
Yep.
Or when it's just destructive. Anything just sets him off, and you kind of just, okay, what's really going on here?
Yeah, but I think it's so much more fun to talk about parenting when it's somebody else is the parent, by the way. This is amazing. But think about, like, how often do we need somebody to reflect that back to us? Like, how much easier would our life be if everywhere we went, something was happening on the inside, and I could be there like, hey, real quick. Hey, you guys, give me just a second. hey, what's really going on the inside?
Right.
Right? Like,
It's like, what's really happening?
Yeah.
Imagine the pivot that would make. And
so imagine if we could give ourselves the kind of space on a daily basis that we could pause for 10 seconds and just ask ourselves, what's really happening? What am I really feeling? Right? It's like when you Google the feelings wheel, it has like the 6 emotions in the middle. They get more and more and more, and you get to that, and you're like, actually, it's that. I thought I was mad. I'm not mad. I thought I was frustrated. I'm not frustrated. I feel betrayed.
so it's almost like finding the best self-assessment program that allows you.
But I would even say, because you know me, I like words, and
Yeah.
if I don't say this, people are going to start calling me out. Like, but I think it's finding the truest self-assessment, not the best.
That's true.
Like, what does it mean for we're going to be the best fathers there ever were? What does that mean?
I don't even know.
And the
what that
same.
means.
So like, why do we give ourselves this threshold, this expectation that's totally unnecessary? We cannot meet it.
Right.
I'm going to be the best dad in the world. I don't even know how to quantify that. I don't even know what that means. More time, less time, more money, less money, more interaction, less interaction, more vacations, less vacations. Don't spoil them. You got to take them to someplace cool. How are they going to, like, every end of the spectrum, I can
everything,
argue
yeah.
that it's best or it's worst.
Right.
So how then do we, and we will use the lane of fatherhood that would take us back to being an individual, but how do we become the truest father? The truest father for you, the truest father that you know to be today, not who you're going to be 10 years from now. That's where we kill ourselves.
Right.
Because we know what we're capable of. I don't give a shit what you're capable of. I want to know what can we actually do today? What kind of fathers are we going to be today? Right? Like this morning, for example. For me, I love spending time with my kids, my wife, my family. Like anybody who knows me knows that about me. I try to be very clear about
Right.
it. But one thing that I'm recognizing is like, but why? Why do I like doing that? I talk about we're going to the park, we're doing this, we're playing pickleball, playing golf, and I show lots of snippets, right, online of us being together.
Right.
Like, so this morning, we get ready. I went to play pickleball this morning. Shout out pickleball. Came back home. I thought, you know what we're going to do? Friday donuts with Dad. The kids just started riding the bus going to school. I said, hey, we're going to do Friday donuts with Dad. We can leave early, go get donuts, park where the bus stop is, sit outside on the curb, eat donuts. The bus comes up. We're going to do it every Friday. Like, my kids are going to remember we're going to do that every Friday. So today we started, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to have donuts with Dad. But it's not about really donuts with Dad, right?
No.
Like,
It's about the moments that you're spending time with them.
and it's about setting a precedent that says, I want to be with you and do something with you and hang out with you. And this over the course of time, every Friday for the next, my son's in 2nd grade, so he's got, 10 more years of school left. My daughter's got 12. So for the next decade, let's call it even flatted out decade. For the next decade, 52 weeks a year, they're in school roughly, I don't know, minus 10 of those. They're in school, call it 40 weeks a year, right? So 40 weeks, 10 more years, right? So we got 400. We got 400 Fridays. Now today, that feels like a lot of Fridays, but that's a lot of donut holes,
It's a
right?
lot of dollars.
And every week that goes by is one less Friday with donuts with Dad. Over and over and over again.
Sheesh.
So for me, hanging out with the kids is fun and great, and I love being an involved and active dad. But man, I'm looking at the decade plan. Man, in a decade from now, I got 400 Fridays with my kids at the bus stop eating donuts. And I don't know where we're going or what kind of trips we're gonna do or what life is gonna like or what kind of vacations we're gonna have or any of those other things. But I do know 400 Fridays. I can do that.
That sounds great. I think a routine we have right now is he likes egg bite. We used to call them bug bite. And just, it's the weirdest thing. But the moment as John's, we're gonna go start get egg bite, and then we're gonna go home. I'm gonna cool it down for you, and I'm gonna give you a glass of orange juice. The happiest kid. All in the world that he wanted is right there. And I think that's one thing I admire that about him so much. I think kids are generally that way, is they are the most present beings. And they just express so much gratitude in the moment. And it's like, wow, I love living for things like this.
Yeah, the amount of times that our kids say, hey, Dad, can I have a popsicle? And my gut wants to be, Not right now. No matter why. Right?
My knee-jerk reaction.
My knee-jerk reaction is, not right now.
Right.
Why? Why is my reaction? I mean, listen, because I've already done all the back end work. We're not buying BS popsicles. They're fruit juice only, no sugar added, straight from the vine, from the watermelon. They got squeezed into a cup. They got put in, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, we already did all that. It's not like they're just ripping sugar balls in there. Like it's fruit juice. I never knew anybody that got overtly unhealthy because they ate too many fruits. Like I know that's the thing, right?
Never heard of that.
Never heard of that. So, but my gut reaction to something, and I don't know if it's like an internal struggle I have, of like, they're gonna get what they want. Life doesn't just give you what you want all the time, bro.
I think that's it, isn't it?
But like, well, how ridiculous is it that I'm gonna try to teach them that by telling them they can't have a popsicle? That doesn't make any sense.
And I think I get unreasonable with them sometimes because of those things.
Yeah, and I don't get. Well, I'm not getting what I want.
Right.
I think somewhere in that day, when I have a great day, popsicles for days, bro.
Get it.
We got 3 popsicles on the side each
Right.
Saturday, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden, I didn't have a day that I wanted. And you want a popsicle? What do you think? You get whatever you want in life every day?
I think one
Right?
thing, you're so right. One of the things that I realized that when I'm frustrated, I want him to understand that I'm frustrated. It's like, dude, chill out.
Yep.
He's 4 years old. He does not understand that.
Yep.
He just knows that you are his everything, and he needs this from you.
Yep.
And when I turn him down, he doesn't fight me. That eats me up. And, one of my biggest fears in life, I can't tell you how many of my friends who have told me how much they hated their dad. And I never want Jones to tell the world about me. That, and then, and I think that's, and it's not even a healthy thing. Sometimes I'm aware of it. And it's like, how do you, and you've had friends who have had parents, they gave them everything, but it was a stone cold relationship because he didn't know how. We just reacted to his kids. And I've gone to certain homes and I'm looking at that, I'm like, gosh, what a nightmare. I had an absentee father. I had a dad who told me the greatest stories, but never really practiced them, living them out with me. And so I didn't have that horrible experiences many others did. I've heard stories which were outside of my surrounding when it comes to him. But, being a dad now, and I'm just like, what a privilege and what a burden it is to where you are constantly, it's almost like a soldier at war. And you hear a bang, you just, if you're gone and you're ready to go and it's your child, you're pointing out. Figure it metaphorically, metaphorically speaking here. And it's just, I'm like learning to really watch myself. And the more I'm able to look myself in the mirror and be realistic about those things and be kind to myself. Right? I get to be a better parent. I get to be a better husband. I get to be a better friend.
And I think I think everything you're saying is really, really wise for us as fathers to make sure. And I'm not attempting. Oh, I have to give me disclaimers.
Yeah.
I think it's really wise for us to make sure that we are self-reflective, because we will inevitably reflect back to our kids things that we don't see unless we see them.
Right.
And so, like, you and I you're a little bit larger of a man than I am, but we're both fairly big dudes. Like, think about our two youngest, my youngest and your kid. Like, think about them, and imagine what it feels like to be them when we come at them. And again, you and I are fairly kind,
Right.
gentle, nice, engaged, loving fathers, right? We're not actively being abusive to our kids. But I think about
definitely know what you're saying, yeah.
about my daughter, and I think about when I see her, and then I think about when I am frustrated and angry, and I am coming towards her. I can see the look on her face, but because I'm upset, I'm like, "That's right. You better be scared." But the thing about what I just said, but when I'm in a moment like this where I'm calm and I say it back to myself,
It's,
I want my daughter to look at me, and my gut reaction is, "That's right. You better be scared."
and yet we do it.
And yet I get frustrated, and I go in the room and I say, "Get in your bed and do not get up again." And you, how many times a night do we do that, right?
God.
And so I think inside it's like, but what am I trying to say? Hey, Rocky. What's really going on inside? Why are you so mad? Why are you so upset? Why do you feel so violated? Why do you think that she's trying to really piss you off on purpose? Do you think that she's actually laying in her bed thinking, "I cannot wait to see my dad get mad at me"?
I just want to piss him off.
There's no way she's doing that. Hell, we're not. I mean, we're both 40 years old, and we rarely even are conscious enough to say we're going to do that for anybody else. So there's no way a 4 or 5 year old's doing it, right? But I think there's something really beautiful. You said it earlier. I mean, it's the incredible burden and beauty of being a father, of the weight and impact and influence we have on our kids on a regular day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis, and the burden of that's also all true.
It's
It's
so
all
crazy.
true all at the same time. You know, I was listening to something yesterday, and he was a guy. I was on Instagram. He was doing a reel, but he was just making a time analogy, and he said statistically, and so fact check me, those of you, if this is not true, but he said basically you have 19 years with your kids. You have the first 18, and then for the average child, the cumulative amount of time they will spend with their parent for the rest of their life is 1 year, 1 full year. So you have 19 years with your kids. The first 18 happen back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
You spend the rest of your life and you get about a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think about that and you go, "No way, that can't be right." You think, well, they're in college and they come home for 3 days for Thanksgiving, and they go to their buddy's house for Christmas. Then they're gone. They get together. They come back home, and you see them. You know what? At best, you see them once a quarter. Maybe if you see them once a month, you see them for a day a month. That's only 12 days.
Isn't that kind of the thing
know what I'm
where
saying?
you're raising your child with an open hand? And I've seen the other way where parents have stifled their kids because they wanted their kids to themselves, and the kid is 29 years old, 30 years old, and that's the beauty of, again, and the pain and sacrifice of, dang, 19 years, that's it, to do it right, to prep this human being to be a contributor into this living world we are all trying to contend with every day.
Yeah, but I even think, I'm just going to push a little bit because that's what we do with each other. But I even think, man, it's I don't even know if it's fair to you to be able to say you have 19 years to do it right. Because what is right?
Right. That's...
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? I think words
No,
matter.
no,
But I think,
that goes back to what we were just talking about again, and it's like doing it right. I think it's just the truest version of Jones
that's right.
I can raise.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
I can, and the truest
And-
version of me being his dad in that.
But that's the key.
And even that doesn't guarantee goodness.
No.
Doesn't guarantee being a good parent or
Nope.
being a good dad. But it has to be true.
Now we're getting somewhere.
And I think about, I don't know how you deal with technology, and we should wrap this up soon.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I don't know how you deal with technology when it comes to raising your children. And I mean, you have a 7-year-old who's at that age, who's just curious and want to consume,
Yeah.
and it's just so hard in terms of we live in the real world and we have to contend with it.
That's right.
Kind of, how do you control what your children watch and when and how? how do we tell? How do you do that?
Yep. I think that's a great question for our next time together. That's a big question for us to answer. How do we think about, and what are practical steps in helping our children navigate online world, the real world, what it's like out there? It's a great question.
Well, we'll talk about that next time.
Next time.
This is good. Appreciate you.